miss.
Okay, so the previous diagram was on only, it was only showing you different chambers of the heart, and it was not showing you details of the valves. Now you can see many, many valves over here, and look at the diagram. Tell me the valves, and also tell me why have these valves into the heart to control the flow of blood in which direction. Yani kuch valves hain which are found between the right atrium and the right ventricle. There are some valves which are found between the left atrium and the left ventricle. इस diagram को गौर से देखो अच्छी तरीके से. And this time I want you to answer me with the presence of your mind.
So,
Okay.
and you also want me to explain this diagram to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, miss. So basically, blood from the head. Just give me one second. Yeah. So, miss, blood from the head enters the right atrium, and after that,
Blood is going in. Blood from the head is entering to the right atrium through which blood vessel?
to the vena cava.
Well, through the vena cava. आ गया blood right atrium में. ठीक है. Right atrium full हो गया. Right atrium is pushing the blood into the right ventricle. Now,
With the
when the
help of
right
the
atrium is pushing it into
ventricular
the
valve.
right ventricle, एक second. Should the valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle be open?
Yes.
It should be open. ठीक है, चला गया right ventricle के अंदर. अब when it goes into the right ventricle, now what should be the status of the valve?
The valve should close.
The valve should close. What's the name of this valve?
The atrioventricular valve or the
atrioventricular valve. ठीक है, इसका नाम atrioventricular है. Tricuspid भी कह सकते हैं, right? So this means that technically the tricuspid is lying where?
the
क्या मैं अब बताओ, between the
right atrium and the right ventricle.
ठीक है, the tricuspid is lying between the right atrium and the right ventricle.
Ventricle.
ठीक है, अब ये बंद हो गई. Now the ventricle is squeezing and it is pushing the blood. What is the name of this vessel? ये कौन सा vessel है?
Pulmonary artery.
Pulmonary artery. Push कर लिया उसने. ठीक है. Do we have another valve between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery? Do we have this valve?
Yes.
What is its name?
Semilunar pulmonary valve.
हाँ, semilunar भी कह सकते हैं, pulmonary भी कह सकते हैं. ठीक है. Now you tell me, when should this be open and when should this be closed?
When the blood it should open when the blood is being pushed by the right ventricle to the lungs, and once the blood has been pushed to the lungs, then it should close.
Correct. Very good. And when should it be opened?
It should be opened when जब ब्लड को बाहर ही भेजना हो तभी खुलना चाहिए.
When the right ventricle is actually squeezing and it wants to send the blood to the pulmonary artery, should be open. ठीक है, fine. Lungs में चला गया, purification हो गई. After being oxygenated in the lungs, the blood has to return to the heart. Through which blood vessel is it returning to the heart? Diagram में देखो, बताओ.
The aorta.
No.
Oh, the
Through
pulmonary
which
vein.
blood vessel?
Pulmonary vein.
हाँ, बिल्कुल. अच्छा, so ये this is the key point. From the lungs, ठीक है, to the lungs. To का मतलब क्या? अच्छा, एक और चीज. To the lungs में blue color का arrow क्यों है? और from the lungs में red color का arrow क्यों है? Come on, tell me.
Blue is the deoxygenated blood and वो lungs में oxygenate होने जा रहा है, and once it has been oxygenated तो वो.
हाँ, ठीक है. अच्छा, so again the question. when it is being purified in the lungs. So when it wants to come back to the heart, so it's coming through which blood vessel?
pulmonary vein.
Pulmonary vein. ठीक है.
और
Pulmonary
मिस ये
vein आ गई.
pulmonary artery के थ्रू लंग्स में जाता है एंड देन pulmonary vein के थ्रू लंग्स पे वापस आता है.
बिल्कुल. अच्छा, pulmonary artery is an artery and pulmonary vein is a vein. But if I say that these are exceptional arteries and veins, why am I saying like that?
Miss, because of the job.
All arteries, they carry, by rule, they carry oxygenated blood. And all veins in your body carry deoxygenated blood. But the pulmonary artery is the only exception in the body that is carrying. Complete my sentence.
Deoxygenated.
And the pulmonary vein is the only vein in the body that is carrying
Oxygenated blood.
इसकी ये खास इंपॉर्टेंस है. देखो एक चीज
So
याद रखना,
importance
in your exams. क्या चीज?
So basically, the
What were you
importance
saying,
here
beta?
is, miss, the importance is that the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood and the vein carries oxygenated blood. That's it, right?
Exactly. But otherwise, ये बाकी arteries और बाकी veins के लिए ऐसे नहीं है. This is only an exception.
Yeah.
ठीक है. और एक चीज याद रखना कि when you have to write down an absolute feature for an artery or a vein, वो ये नहीं होता कि arteries carry oxygenated blood and veins carry deoxygen. आप कहते हैं arteries carry the blood away from the heart, veins carry the blood towards the heart. Do you think this definition is correct over here? ये देखो, ये pulmonary artery है ना, ये blood को कहाँ लेके जा रही है? Away लेके जा रही है ना from the heart.
Yeah.
तो ये artery है. Pulmonary
So
vein
when you
carrying the blood
general
to the
मांगे,
heart.
so in that general thing, I'm supposed to write this. But if they ask specifically for the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein, तो फिर deoxygenated or oxygenated mention करूँ, right?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. Now we have arrived at the left atrium. Okay, so when the left atrium wants to squeeze the blood, what is the name of this valve?
The left atrioventricular valve.
And this valve should be open
when the blood is going to the left ventricle from the left atrium, and then it should just close once all the blood has gone.
Okay, once all the blood has gone. So now from the left ventricle, the blood is going where?
To the aorta.
Is there a valve?
Yes, the semilunar aortic.
Semilunar. Okay. And we all know when it should close and when it should open. अच्छा,
Okay.
अब एक बड़ा सा सवाल बन सकता है difficult सा इसके ऊपर, and that question is, and this, I think this is being recorded so you can listen to it as well, that let's say if somebody asks me, explain in detail the mechanism by means of which the blood is only moving in one direction in the heart and not moving in opposite directions. You can always see it's moving in one direction, isn't it? देखो, ये जा रहा है एक ही direction में, पीछे नहीं आ रहा, reverse gear नहीं लगा रहा. Oh, sorry. Again, I'm going to wait this, and then coming back through this, and then this, and then this. Look, isn't it? Am I giving a reverse gear?
No, miss.
No. Acha. Another thing, there is a structure which is known as the median septum, and this median septum also does not allow the blood to flow in the reverse gear or from right to left or from left to right. So, explain in detail what are the mechanisms provided inside the lungs, inside the heart, that enable the blood to move in a single direction and not in the reverse direction. So,
The
you will
valves.
say, the valves, you'll describe and explain. You will say the heart has been provided with 4 sets of valves, 2 found between the junction of the atria and the ventricle, namely tricuspid valve at the junction of the right atrium and the right ventricle, the mitral valve at the junction of the left atrium and the left ventricle, the pulmonary and the aortic valves at the junction of right ventricle and pulmonary artery, and the aortic valve at the junction of left ventricle and aorta. So all these valves make it a point that the blood should always go in one direction by opening and closing at the correct time. So they will open only when the blood needs to move forward, and they will close only when we want to prevent the backflow of the blood. So they help in preventing the backflow of the blood. Besides this, the heart has been provided with a median septum, that is a strong muscular wall which separates the entire right side of the heart from the left side, so that no mixing of the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood should take place. Got it?
Yes, miss.
Now tell me the correct answer. Which, in fact, which nahi pooch rahi. What is A?
A is the vena cava.
Correct. What is B?
Hmm. Mr. Lungs की तरफ pulmonary artery.
Pulmonary artery. Very good. What is C?
Aorta.
D?
Pulmonary vein.
Acha. What is the name of this valve?
The right atrioventricular valve.
Good. This?
The left atrioventricular valve.
This?
The semilunar pulmonary valve.
This?
Left semilunar aortic valve.
Correct. Okay. Answer.
What happens to the heart valves when the ventricles contract? The atrioventricular valve closes the heart when the ventricles contract. Opens. Miss, it's gonna be C.
No. Think about it. Your ventricles are squeezing. ये squeeze हो रहे हैं. इनको
Yeah.
squeeze होना है. इनको squeeze होके आगे भेजना है. So
अच्छा एक सेकेंड. The atrioventricular valve ऊपर होता है तो वो हो जाएगा बंद. It will close. And then the semilunar valve would open. So sorry, it's gonna be B.
correct. Read this. It's just a repetition what I said right now. Just read it.
मिस ये अगर वो जो क्वेश्चन यू वर टेलिंग जो बड़ा सा क्वेश्चन आ जाए तो उसमें ये भी लिख सकते हैं.
उसमें यही तो लिखते हैं. यही है. ठीक है. Same thing. In fact, you should have studied. इसके 4-5 marks. You should have, when you are revising for this thing now, you should have studied these notes. I think I have shared these notes with you.
No, miss, you didn't share ये वाले notes. You like classroom पे you shared वो other दूसरे वाले. Like you haven't shared your handwritten notes. You've sent like a presentation. So can you also share these with me ताकि then I can just get done with